and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis the 13th. Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head. My road shop niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day prepping America overseas. Pension for the workers, nigga please. Embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement. I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut. Foreclose a big homes as a tenement. I twist words like a speech impediment. I hope you got good credit, bitch. If not, better get a new job with benefits. While I play golf with niggas and get cheddar with. New money buys brand new carrots. My old money bunch of great grandparents. You got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at ya. I own every gold mine in South Africa. Thanks, baby, you made me a billion. Plus, I own a building for each one of my children's children.
And we are live. Welcome to Voice of Rebellion Radio on UCY Radio. It is 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time. This is your host, Chris J. And we are having here in a few minutes, we're going to have John Anthony Fairhurst. Will be on the show, the interview. And just a little background on for the people who are familiar with him, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to the show are familiar with him. He is a big time figure in Anon, Anonymous, whatever you call him. People's the guy, Fox Mask, wild protesters. They're all throughout the country, whatever you're going to call them, but Anonymous. You know, they're more than just protesters and the 3 million Ass March. They're a very large online movement. He's a very prominent figure. And as you probably read the description, and when it comes to the Million Mass March, this is the man of the Million Mass March. This is the creator. This is the organizer of the Million Mass March. So if you went to any of the last 30 Million Mass March, 2013, 2014, 2015, just a few weeks ago, you give him credit for organizing the whole thing with hundreds of thousands of protesters across the country, possibly millions, with tens of thousands just in the Washington, D.C. protest alone against corruption in our government, against fascism, against many different things that people protest about, and not just in our country. London, they have a very large million mass protest every year. And a lot of Western Europe, and really all across the country, all across the world, where there's country, the country that need the most, you see these giant protests for people to stand. They also Anonymous has also came a little bit to light recently with a few things. That's going to be talked about, but Op KKK was one of the recent things, and now Op ISIS became a recent event that. A recent mission that Anonymous has taken forward to expose many of the clandestine ISIS recruiters and other ISIS affairs, many connected back to the United States government.
Hey, Chris, we're getting a call come in. They dropped off, but when they come back in, I'm going to add your call, okay?
Yeah, that should be John Anthony Fairhurst.
Okay, I'll add him when he calls back. He fell off there.
Yeah, and he's going to be on for the entire show, I think, so far. And we're going to have the lines open today. I know this is some of the issues that we're mainly going to be focusing on. At least for the start of the show, we'll be talking a lot about Ferguson. We'll be talking a lot about Baltimore, where Anonymous had a big impact in. A lot of times, side by side with the Black Lives Matter protesters in these different events. And also, we're going to be talking just a little bit about the recent Million Mass March that just happened a couple weeks ago, and it's a pretty big honor having him on the show. John Anthony Fairhurst doesn't he doesn't exactly pop around all the time on the radio, I guess, and he's a very busy man with many things he's doing. And it's just what he's done with his Million Mass March is pretty incredible. So, anyways, if you do call in, please be respectful. Of course, debate's allowed, but keep it respectful because this is a very important show. And I don't. If you're just here to derail the show, you've seen what's happened before in the past. That would just eventually will cut you off, or make you look like a fool, which has happened before. And he's the John Anthony Fairhurst. He's on Facebook. Probably that's where a lot of the people that are. If you're listening to the show, you've probably heard of him or you have him as a friend on Facebook. And I think that's what's cool is that it's really this whole circle is really close to UCY. The whole circle around the other networks they're very close to UCY. He's kind of common around. He just reaches around to so many people online. And so the Million Mass March, of course, has a giant following online. The event page, thousands of people, 20,000 people or something like that have said that they would go just by the event page. A lot more went to the D.C. protest, at least in 2013, 2014. I know the numbers in 2015.
Okay, we have a caller. Is this your guest? Hello, caller.
Hey, is this you?
No, this is just a listener.
Okay. Hey, you're welcome to listen in. If you can mute up your end on the mic there, and we'll add your caller then, Chris, when he calls.
I'll mute myself.
Would you like to say anything, caller?
No, I'm just, my name's Lieutenant, and I'm also in to be anonymous, and just looking forward to this conversation.
Right on, bro. Welcome to the call.
Is actually, which that's cool you called in, man. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna be mostly focusing on Ferguson and Baltimore for a lot of it, and then we're also be talking about the recent Million Mass March 2015 that just happened. I was going to say that apparently, at least what the media reports have been saying is that that apparently the attendance will be the same as in the past for the Million Mass March this year, which I really don't actually have a clue. From personal experience what exactly happened because I was very far away from I wasn't out in the countryside of Colombia while this was happening, and then I kind of just saw from online. Wasn't actually in the country near any of the big protests.
Chris, I don't mean to cut you off, but you sound a little gargled. Your signal is coming out gargly.
I don't know. It's a sound quality. I mean, it seems like it might be just the call in general because over on your end, we're not really getting clear.
Well, your other guy sounded perfectly clear. They're using like Skype or something because you sound like.
Yeah, of course I'm using Skype. I mean, that's how I do all my radio shows on. I do all my radio shows on Skype, so I don't know what.
I understand that. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you a heads up. It's hard to understand what you're saying. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. It's not coming exactly clear on your end either. Like I'm muffled. I think I know what you're talking about. It's muffled on your end as well. Might be some kind of I don't know. It might be an internet connection problem or something.
Okay. Well, hey, caller. We just have to go with it. So, my experience in radio is when the conversation leads towards "Can you hear me now?" Then the content.
So you sound good. So. You sound clear and very readable. I don't know how I sound on your end, but maybe Chris, if you call the number and use your regular landline or something. But it's just my take on what I'm listening to.
That's a good suggestion. If you can call in, I don't know, Chris. I could take your phone call by phone if there's an internet connection on your end. So, but go ahead and continue, and let's see how it sounds. And there's that option.
Well, anyways, I want to get back to I'm going to just keep broadcasting through it. Talk about a little bit stuff, a background to the show also is that recently some more protests have erupted around the country along the lines of Ferguson and Baltimore. Other events have been outrages have been sparked by similar events. Unarmed black men have been shot in different cities, and also recently an event happened where Black Lives Matter protesters were shot at by what is believed to be white supremacists. And in Ferguson, we saw a lot of shady groups in general. Some people accused on both sides, but definitely on the pro-police side, many KKK actually showed up in Ferguson to counter the Black Lives Matter protesters and the other protesters in Ferguson. And of course, other media and Alex Jones, of course, was accusing of communists and other groups. He just put a whole plethora of groups that he believed were alongside the people in Ferguson. As you can tell, that he wasn't the most supportive person of the Ferguson protests. I think that the Ferguson protests, of course, and even this activist community is very split the opinions about it. Many people believe it to be a constructed movement, even with the accusations of Soros being behind it. And there's even there's all kinds of different theories that have been put about Ferguson and Baltimore, and I know having the lines open is going to lead to probably some debate. In Baltimore, of course, people have called them rioters, thugs, many different things. The mainstream media accused them of being, and other so-called activists accused them of being these various things. And I think that it's suspicious when these people that are in the activist community are spewing the same things the mainstream media are spewing out, and then say that they're saying something different. And that's what I saw a lot with the Baltimore protest back in May. It's hard to believe that it's already been 7 months, I would mean, since that was the early May, where we had the Baltimore protests, Baltimore riots. The riots were really a small part of what actually happened in Baltimore. There were a lot more peaceful protests, and there was this small opportunist group that was rioting, and so-called in favor of the cause. However, I believe a lot more opportunists. And I think that one thing that needs to be put into question is that it's funny how loyal some activists will claim when one, CVS gets burnt down or something like that, compared to a man being tortured in the back of a van by the police, and many other things happened. They broke his spine, and they left him there for 2 hours while he died in the back of that van. That CVS getting burnt down will upset him more than that happening to the innocent man that had done no crimes at that point. That corporation that literally one of their businesses getting burnt down does very little harm to the business in general, because they have insurance. They're a giant corporation. It's just one little teeny branch out of probably 100,000 stores across the country. Just a rough estimate, not knowing, but compared to, and they were more upset about that. That same picture was shown many times, and there was fake pictures brought upon by the mainstream media. For example, of what was supposed to be reported as a picture of the Baltimore protest, the Baltimore riots, and it shows many buildings getting burnt down. I mean, but the thing was, it wasn't even a picture from our country. It was a picture from Venezuela, and the acts were committed by people Fox News supports, the right-wing fascist Leopoldo Lopez clan that is against the Venezuelan government down there was the ones responsible for the rioting. This pure irony right there. And I think, I think that right there is the epitome of the mainstream media's irony at sometimes, and just horrible reporting that has been shown with these events, like the Ferguson, Baltimore, and just all events in general. But it's been really, with these events, it's been horrible. Now you see a lot of distraction stories that arise when really things get really serious. When these things like with Ferguson, of course, they showed they whitewashed the acts of the police. Like around this time a year ago was when the Darren Wilson, I'm getting the cop's name right, was exonerated, and then there was the riots that erupted afterwards, and they're whitewashing the acts of the police, really just showing nitpicking. Okay, we're going to show this footage of these protesters doing this or whatever, and they didn't show the actions of the police. And then, really, after about 3 or 4 days, I'm pretty sure it dropped, and then they put a difference and came onto the news. Now, we've had a lot just go on the last few weeks. We've had, of course, there's been what dominated the news. It's been Paris, which only about a third of what took place is actually on the news. And what I mean by that is that some eyewitness accounts of that these people that did Paris, they saw white men getting out of expensive cars, and then they started shooting on the people, suggesting that this might have been Mossad or French or who knows, even MI6 or American intelligence that committed terrorist attacks in order to justify a lockdown of France and continue the fear-mongering that they have put on the Western world. And also at the same time, the question is brought about when something like this happened at the hands of ISIS is that who funded ISIS in the first place? How did they get to become such a powerful group that they're able to commit these acts of terror against innocent people, not just France, but Syria, where they've done 100 times more damage over there, but that's not talked about because most of the damage is against Syrian people that are pro-Assad, which ultimately ISIS was created to take out Bashar al-Assad from power. But the question is not also brought about who bought their oil. It was the United States, it was Saudi Arabia, it was Israel brought about the rise of ISIS. And we do apologize for the short delay. We believe that Don will be on in a second here. It might be just the fact that I don't know, maybe they didn't want to be on for the whole 2 hours or whatever. That is a long time for some people to be on the radio.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I had to deny a couple of calls that were coming in early before the start of the hour. So maybe he thought he had a problem. If you want to take a second and send him a message or something, then you might do that. Let him know that the lines are open now.
Yeah, I'm going to send him a message right here on Facebook here in a second. It's pretty common actually for guests. I mean, people sometimes 9 o'clock isn't exactly 9 o'clock, but usually it works out good. Anyways, I think that what he'll actually bring to the show will be, as he would call, beast mode. People know John Anthony Fairhurst. That's kind of a word he uses a lot. And I think that Million Mass March it might not be exactly getting bigger by the numbers, but I think that it's definitely getting bigger by the awareness. I think that more people know about the Million Mass March in 2015 than they did back in 2013, for example, which I'm pretty sure was the first year of the movement. And then the thing was that only correctly one major media that a lot of Americans watch, and not really a lot of Americans watch, but that would be RT, which does have is the most viewed news on YouTube. Seems to be the only people that will talk about the Million Mass March, while it gets completely blocked out by CNN, MSNBC, Fox, BBC, Al Jazeera, all these other, practically all the bigger news media in the United States, because CNN, MSNBC, Fox are the big three, of course, and BBC, Al Jazeera are the number one and number two internationally watched news in this country is RT. Anyways, I am right now sending a message to Fairhurst, and hopefully he'll be on next few minutes. Talking, I just want to bring a little update about, since, I guess another thing that's been as a cat in the news recently, and just alarming, is the Syrian escalation that's happened. Now there's boots on the ground. The special forces in Syria, not just to fight ISIS, but to fight the Bashar al-Assad government. Actually, they're not there to fight ISIS. The United States has never really, never been in there to fight ISIS, but to remove Assad. ISIS, the only people that are fighting them are the Russian coalition, which Russia, Iran, and I think Jordan might have joined that coalition. I'm just skeptical of Jordan actually making any move against ISIS, because they were one of the big funders of ISIS, along with all the Gulf states, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and if I miss in Kuwait. All have been big funders of the terrorism in Syria in general, and that's not that one group. Remember that ISIS works as Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, and all the Syrian rebels. The Syrian rebels are ultimately terrorists. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's they commit acts of terror. They do suicide bombings. They crucify Christians. They use chemical weapons. They admitted to using chemical weapons. They're the only ones that actually have proof of using chemical weapons. Syrian government, practically a fabrication in 2013 to drum up a war, which now it's practically just had to wait another 2 years or so. And now it looks like war is right. We're at the eve of war as we start to go into this holiday season, and it looks like the United States will be sending. There's already talks about 75,000, 100,000. They've been kind of brought about by think tanks and even the government in general considering it. After Paris, they're saying that it's necessary, and they're going to say it's to go in because of ISIS. But it's keeping being brought about that the ultimate priority is taking out Assad. You hear people like Lindsey Graham, John McCain in the morning, watching TV this morning. That's what they're saying. That and it's the same propaganda that they spew out. And John McCain was the one that met with al-Baghdadi in 2013, and now he's going to try and say that that he's the one that's truly anti-ISIS. But he's just anti-Assad, like the establishment, like the elite are, and they want to take out Assad because Assad opposes the New World Order. He opposes the Zionist attempts to control the Middle East. It's only Assad, Khamenei and Iran, and Houthi, the leader of the Houthis, which right now is a split Yemen, actually oppose the Zionist agenda in the Middle East. And it can be argued, but I'm going to take more, say that for the most part, what I've seen, it seems Sisi is guilty of working with the Zionists. However, at times it seems like he has differed and has worked more with Putin, and strongly, I know that he strongly went against the United States at times, and has actually took legitimate steps against ISIS in Libya, and they're fighting their own insurgency in the Sinai. That's where it gets questionable, because it seems that Egypt its insurgency in the Sinai is really an insurgency against Hamas, and it's really a anti-Palestinian collaboration with Israel. Sisi recently visited London, actually, where he was greeted by both protesters and supporters, actually, of him. But I can say that ultimately it can be argued, and also that he does have a loose alliance with Assad, a loose. I would say I don't think that as much. It's not. There's actually no alliance with Iran, but they do have a strong alliance with Russia, and it's and what's mainly got his popularity is his stance against the Muslim Brotherhood, which I will say Muslim Brotherhood is certainly CIA or surely CIA operatives. However, going back to the thing about Syria, is that Assad is one, and it also is the last secular Arab country. That's why you see the Christians fighting. Most of the Christians in Syria are pro-Assad and fighting alongside with Assad troops, the Christian militias there in Syria. But it's not just all. It's not just the Christians. It's not just the Alawites. It's not just the Shias that are supportive of Assad. It's 70% of the country. He has an extremely high popularity rating there. It's similar to the popularity ratings. Clinton had have an 89% popularity rating, or we saw of Gaddafi before he was taken out by just one of the most awful violations of human rights, sovereignty, about what NATO did to Libya bombing, taken back from. They were a modern country. Tripoli was a modern city. There's all kinds of developments and the human development index that soared through the roof. They had just one of the biggest poverty reductions ever seen in history. Currency was about to be the strongest. They're about to make a all African currency that would be against the Rothschild backing gold. The gold dinar was going to be one of the strongest in the planet currency he was about to make. Libya had a very bright present during Gaddafi and a very, 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 very bright future with Gaddafi. But that was all destroyed when he was taken out and brutally murdered. And let's remember, who were the kind of people that took over Libya? Who is in control of Libya now? The big part of Libya right now is
Okay, we have ISIS. A caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, John.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, it's John Anthony Fairhurst is on the line with us right now. So now we can officially start.
How's it going, guys?
Anyways, hey, you're live, man. Honored to have you on the show. I've wanted to have you on the show for a while, and it's pretty cool because I know a lot of people that listen to the show know you on Facebook or know about, of course, the Million Mask March, which you are the organizer pretty much of the Million Mask March, and also we're going to talk about Ferguson, some of the other stuff similar to it, and a few other things. We do have the lines open, so we might have a few callers come in towards the end of the show if you're cool with that. Anyways, I want to talk about the Million Mask March 2015 that just happened a few weeks ago. A lot of people were saying stuff like this Million Mask March, they're saying that this didn't have the same attendance as the past Million Mask Marches or whatever, last two before that, or that it just didn't have the strength this time. I mean, you were actually, of course, the organizer, and you were actually at the Million Mask March. I was far away in Colombia just getting reports about it on Facebook. Are you impressed or not so impressed about what happened on November 5th this year? And you think there's anything that could be improved on?
Well,
I'll put it this way. I mean, there was over the last 3 years, the number of people that have shown up in DC has gone down. However, like over the past 3 years, at the same time as the numbers going down, the intensity of the march has increased. Plus, I mean, this year not only did we have the march like on the 5th, but we also had a meeting on the night of the 4th at a lounge in DC. Like we had Justin King speaking, Dan Johnson, the founder of Panda. We had the Panther Party there. You know, basically designed for people from different areas, different organizations to become familiar with other groups, other organizations, other activists that are out there. So it was not only did we have the march. Yeah, I mean there were less people, but like I said, it was a little bit more intense. We had Ray Lewis, the retired Philadelphia police captain. It was more of more organized this year with like I said, with the meet and greet, with everybody speaking. Everybody was able to network and meet other people from different areas that they may have been unfamiliar with. So I was impressed with it was definitely good. I mean, it's always good. I mean, am I not impressed? Like, no, I would never be not impressed because like people showed up, and over the last 3 years, like the people that are still going, the people that are still showing up are those like dedicated people. Like some of the people come because it's cool. Some people come for like different reasons, but the people that have come like this year are the dedicated individuals that will probably continue to go. I mean, like I've always been one to say that I don't plan on marching forever. Marching in the streets, all that's going to do is raise awareness. It's not going to actually change anything. But it's something that does need to be done. So I mean, people do continue to do it, but throughout the year we also do other things. Like this December 6th coming up in Philly, we have Off Feed the Homeless, Off Helping Hands, with and it's basically like a spin off from Awakened Cincinnatians, when they basically do it like once a month or do it as much as possible. And then like next month, I think it's on January 15th and 16th, we'll be doing another one. It'll be like every state, trying to get every state to do it like nationwide, So, I mean, it's just the organization, like getting people together, the unity, get all these different groups together. And that's what we have been working on from the beginning.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get a lot of these groups together, especially at times when these groups are feuding or don't exactly have the best relations. But to get them all together for the common cause, to fight, to march against corruption, against fascism, march against the Rothschild, march against what many people call the New World Order. I'm pretty sure that most of the people that march in the protest have know about the New World Order and aware about it, are fighting against it, and that's why they go to the march and do many other things. It's funny you mentioned Ray Lewis, because I actually interviewed Ray Lewis about a year ago, actually early January, and he's a really cool dude. We were talking about all kinds of stuff, and we were talking about the police state and the police brutality, talking about we talked about Philadelphia. He was there in Philadelphia when the bombing happened of the MOVE group in '86. We talked about that a little bit, and we talked about 9/11 truths. Ray Lewis is definitely an exception to the police. Now he's retired, of course. People like him and just many different people that are the Million Mask March do make the Million Mask March what it is. And yeah, definitely, I know the intensities went up. I saw that, and in the Million Mask March internationally, I was wondering. Did you see what was going on? Because I know that, like, in London, they have a very big one. The last 3 years, they had a very big one, Million Mask March over there. I don't know too much. I think it's even in Germany. It's all across it's down South America and different countries. It's all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see much about what happened internationally this year? Was it better, or was about the same as 2014, 2013. So I'm kind of curious what happened with that.
I didn't understand what you said right there.
What?
Hello? I didn't think that he kind of broke up a little bit.
Yeah, there has been a little bit of a muffling inside the call, but I was just saying is that internationally, the Million Mass March as strong as it was in 2014, 2013 in numbers and just the overall outcome of the event?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were like this year. I think there were less people like around the world as opposed to the first and the second year. But I mean, like I said, like I mean, it's just been like it's just like I said, like marching in the streets is people are getting sick of just marching in the streets. You know what I mean? Like people are like, I mean, me personally, like I was definitely like from the beginning of the Million Mass March, like and everybody's done their own research, and like you see, like people have been marching the streets for hundreds of years, if it's not longer. You know what I mean? Like protesting, it doesn't do anything, and that's why I think that like people need to like I've been trying to tell people since this last march and before this last march that people need to like step up the game and get to the next level. And I mean that just people in their own like they realize like they're seeing it like all right, what's going down there and marching the streets and nothing's going to happen. There's going to be no change, and people are getting aggravated with that. And like me personally, I've been telling people I think they need to get with like their local militias. I mean, that it needs to be an organization. It needs to be unity. To get the people, everybody on the same page, like find the common ground where, then I mean, if you got like Anonymous out there, and you have like Oath Keepers out there, you have all these different groups, and everybody's doing their own little thing. Like it's basically like everybody's running around circles in their own little group. But it's not really getting anywhere because these people aren't like getting together. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own place in this movement, in any movement, and if everybody organizes and put all those pieces together, then that's when you're going to see some change. But I mean, me at the same time, like I have two plans. I plan for today, I plan for tomorrow, and I plan for 10 years from now. You got to. It's like. Yeah. Eventually, with everything that's going on in the world right now, I mean, there is a boiling point, and we've yet to reach it. And in my opinion, I think it's going to happen sooner than later. So, I mean, it's
everybody has their own niche in the movement, and that successful movements in the past that have actually led to a big change. That's what we've seen is all these little niches in the movement actually came together and made a unified movement that actually was able to make a great change, and that's very rare. I mean, a lot of times, unfortunately, what happens is the controlled opposition that ultimately by the time they end up winning, the other side is already infiltrated or whatever, and many things have happened. But of course, in the successful moves I'm talking about, like everybody has in this radio, many people talk about different things. I mean, there's like for example, I mainly focus on. I talk about everything. If people that listen to my show will talk about how I go off on very big tangents. And then all of a sudden I'll be, oh, wait, that was the topic of the show. I have to get back to that. But, I talk about, mainly I'll be focusing on Zionism recently in the last year and a half, ever since the Ukraine stuff that went down. Anti-Maiden, talking about the Novorossiya fighters. They're fighting against the West Ukrainian imposition of fascism on their homeland. And I've also talk a lot about South America because that's practically where I'm from. And I talk about the Venezuela a lot. But and of course back here, there's so many topics, so many groups. Black Panthers, there's the Oath Keepers, there's of course these people that are kind of like on the outsides of the movement, that are sort of in the movement, there's people that will be in this movement, but at the same time will each have one foot in the Tea Party movement, which, as we know, is not really exactly a movement for real change, or they'll have 1 foot in, 1 foot sometimes even in sort of, unfortunately, there's a problem sometimes that people that call themselves truthers have very negative reactions towards Ferguson and Baltimore, which that's what I kind of wanted to be the main event of the show. A lot of people have said about Ferguson that the protesters are all practically, this is a constructed movement from the outside, from Soros, is what I've heard a lot. George Soros is behind Ferguson. He's behind Baltimore. And that, they accuse the protesters, they're protesting against police brutality and against racism in the police, of trying to start a race war, but not blame the other side. of the coin or whatever. You know, the KKK that are support the police oftentimes.
Yeah,
I mean, I just wanted to hear what's your reaction to all these accusations about the protests.
I mean, it's funny. Just first and foremost, I mean, even last night, my brother out in Chicago was out with a group, and there's some information that's yet to come out, but there have been some videos posted, and the main organizer of the protest, like basically one of the main organizers, anyway, as far as I know, he allegedly, like he invited like he invited a bunch of people to this protest, and he was the main one, like screaming. I mean, he's screaming "fuck the police." He's like staring cops down, he's all up in the cops' face and that and the other thing. And then once the people that he invited out, like this, once they like got there, like they got arrested, and right after that, the same kid that organized this event was like all everybody like shaking hands and like hugging the cops. You know, it's put people looking into why he organized this and everything else based on that. You know, like it's almost like he invited the people out there so they could so they would get arrested, basically. But and as far as like, I mean, there have been reports, like, since I was in Fairhurst last year, like, this time last year, and there have been, like, reports that have come out, like, some of the activists that have done the research and looked into it themselves, that there are people that are being, like, paid, like, there are groups that were receiving thousands of dollars from, like, some known and some unknown sources that were, you know, activist groups in person, but I got there the night that they announced that they weren't going to invite Darren Wilson, and I was there 2.5 months, and I didn't see any one of those groups in the streets ever. But yet they're getting money to support their activists. Like, they're basically down there because Mike Brown got shot. You know, they're down there protesting against the police. You know, hands up, don't shoot, the whole nine. But yet they're getting paid but they're basically like social media activists. Like, they're not actually, I mean, they have like these meetings, but they're not out doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, basically getting paid to like talk about it, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And I mean, as far as like people outside, agitators, that kind of thing. I mean, of course, there's going to be those. You know, and as far as like, there are people are saying like George Soros, like all these other people are like, they're like, you know, controlled opposition to deal or whatever. But I see, like, I was down there 2.5 months with people on the streets, like you know, like this lady. This lady is like down there cooking food for the protesters. Like, if there's all this money being funneled to these Ferguson protesters, I'll tell you one thing. I myself and anybody that I was with down there, and any of the protesters people that I met down there, and like stayed in the house all down there, there was no money going around. It was, you know, I mean, we were down there supporting ourselves. Like, you know, like I left for Ferguson $20 in the pocket. Like, so if there's all this money going down there, there are groups that are getting it, but not out there in the streets and they're not actually protesting anything. I mean, it happens. But, yeah,
well, there's
what can you do about it?
definitely inside protests like this, and you know, it definitely just causes to be able triggers than any protest of any size. I mean, look what happened with Occupy Wall Street. That was definitely pretty much the story of Occupy Wall Street by the end. By 2012, going into 2013, it was already had infiltrated a lot of real top leaders. Who knows what happened to those people? You know, it might have been bought off. Some people might have even been disappeared for all we know. And then, there's, of course, these fakes that had gone into the movement and started taking leadership positions, had taken financial positions, and it's even, I don't know how true this claim is, but apparently they even had an account with Bank of America at one point. I mean, it fell apart because of that. I don't see that same characteristics of Occupy Wall Street in Ferguson or Baltimore so much. And I think that, of course, there's the agitators, there's people that are paid to loot. I think that's true. I think there's people that are paid to
definitely
loot, set stuff on fire, really protesters look bad.
When Baltimore happened, like I wasn't about to like go to Baltimore because I mean that was my gut feeling. Like the whole thing of Baltimore, it's like it was basically like it was being pushed like whoever was behind it, like they wanted another Ferguson to happen in Baltimore. You know, like they wanted it to happen. So, I mean, but it would gain. I mean, and then you got to look at who would benefit from that. Like they would benefit from more security, more police, more law enforcement, militarize the police even more. Like they were pushing for that to happen because that's what they wanted the end result to be, is to be able to like saying, "Oh, we need more security, and shut down people's throats." Like, that's why I wasn't all about Baltimore. I mean, did Freddie Gray die? Yeah, but I think it was pushed like excessively. And not only that, I mean, there are certain things that happened during that protest that were kind of off. You know, I mean, like, there was a group of kids that, I mean, just one thing that pops to mind. There was a group of kids that was being followed by a news helicopter, where they're like, "Oh, let's watch these kids." And all of a sudden, the kids come around the corner, and there's like a pile of rocks in the city. There's like round boulders, like there were no rocks. You know what I mean? It was just like a pile that was sitting there, and like all of a sudden they just come up, start throwing it at the cops. I think it was like basically like a movement kind of like got hijacked almost. You know, like they used it to their advantage and tried pushing it to create another Ferguson.
I think that's definitely. I think that, of course, there was many things that I watched Baltimore and just media coverage of Baltimore in general. And a lot of people are saying that everything was a new Ferguson, and it didn't really exactly happen that way. And the one thing, though, that was learned from Baltimore was the people's opinion on stuff like that. You know, is that people will be more upset. Like, I saw at least 20 fucking pictures of the CVS burnt down, saying, "Look at what the thugs did," or whatever. And like, that people will be more mad about a fucking CVS burnt down, a corporation, and literally, you're talking about 0.0001% of their total money. Just how rich they are. They'll be more mad about that than, somebody getting tortured in the back of a police van for doing had a small blade on him, Freddie Gray, and then gets beat to the point where his spine is severed, and then he sits in the back of the van for 2 hours, probably in agony for most of it, until he dies. People forget about the initial event that set the whole Baltimore thing off. And this is not even an uncommon event. I mean, we see all kinds of stuff, and it's not a black or white issue, really. I mean, you see, like, up in Minnesota a year or two back, there was a homeless man that was in a wheelchair or something like that, and then the cops, apparently he was a little bit aggressive with the cops or something like that. Couldn't have been too aggressive because he was in a wheelchair. And then he gets shot at 12 times and gets killed right there in front of a bunch of people. This kind of events have happened so much over the last few years. I mean, I think that the 1,000 Americans killed by police is actually a low estimate. I think it's a lot more.
Definitely is.
And it's got to be, because it just seems like I see something about it every other day, and it just everywhere of, people being, and it's more, a lot of these times it's literally nothing. They had committed no crime, or, like Michael Brown did such a stole a Swisher from a convenience store or something like that. $1 stolen apparently is a death penalty, according to many people on Facebook. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, good job, Darren Wilson. You're a great cop," and stuff like that. And these were supposed activists at the same time. That's just a shocking thing. I think that Ferguson and Baltimore was just the start of it. I think that these protests are now all around the country, are very vigilant to what the police are doing. But the thing is that we're not preventing the police from doing it. That's what is disheartening. They're still doing it. They're just going to protest after it happens, and then 2 days later, it's over. I think that what can we do to actually stop this from happening in the first place? As citizens. I mean, I have one answer: cut it, nip it at the butt. But I just want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at like past examples of people that have actually stepped up to prevent it, look at the Black Panthers. They organized the Black Panthers to protect their community. I mean, they came out with guns, they didn't come out aggressively with the guns, but they, protested the guns, armed protests with shotguns and rifles, we're not going to let you do this anymore. But then once you have a group that is going to step up to do that, they're going to basically do what they basically did to the Black Panthers. I mean, look at Fred Hampton was murdered in his bed. And then you get Huey in jail, and it's just like once. I mean, you have these people that step up to this, and they're going to come at you in every single way possibly that you could even imagine, and then some to try to basically shut you down. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why, I previously said, like, people need to organize. Like the activists the activists need to organize with, like, groups like the former Oath Keepers, now the Tactical Yetis, like Sam Ayers that was down in First, and like. They need to organize with people like that. People like organize with their local militias. Like get together. Not the new black. There are different variations of the Black Panthers out there now. Like I've been speaking with for months now with the Panther Party. There's another group called the NBPP, the New Black Panther Party. I mean, the majority of them are racist. And there's always extremists in every group, but this is what I'm saying. Like, really organize the militias. Like, take it to that next level, to, like you said, to not protest after it happens, but to organize, get together, and prevent it from happening, like you just said, I mean, and like I said, the prime example is what the Black Panthers did in the 60s, So, I mean, we'll put it this way, like I said, marching in the streets isn't going to do anything. It's not going to make any change. It's going to raise awareness. It's going to, it's going to put it on the news, but other than that, that's all it's going to do. So, I mean, put it this way, like, instead of, if it was like, people like having, right, so you get the activists that are marching in the streets, but combine those marches in the streets with the militias, with the armed militias, to make that presence known, that people are not going to allow this to happen anymore. And now we're organizing, and we're getting to the point where it's going to be armed marches, armed, non-violent marches, just to let them know, like, we're not going to sit by, it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Never mind, I mean, as far as things that have already happened, people are already, I mean, there are a lot of people that are past that boiling point, and it's just, like I said, it's going to happen sooner or later, and hopefully it goes in our favor rather than against it,
Well, definitely with the Black, the point about the Black Panthers, they were a very powerful group that was actually able to counter the power of the police. And of course, that's why all that happened in the 70s and 80s was the movement where they infiltrated. They had a lot of the leaders killed. They had a lot of the leaders arrested. They had Foster Shakur put away, framed for killing a trooper, and she ended up. She actually escaped and was fortunate enough to be able to do that, and ran to Cuba after that. We had, of course, Huey P. Newton. He died actually after the movement ended in '89, but it was a result of the fracturing of the Black Panther movement, and not only the fracturing of the movement, but how it was, what they did to the movement, what they did, kind of split up, and then it turned into the Crips and Bloods was kind of a split off ultimately. That's kind of the weird thing. Even though now it's just complete. At times it's been political, and other times, but most people associate it with gang aspect. But it really was something that sprouted off the Black Panther Party of from 1966 to '82, and then Huey P. Newton was eventually killed by a rival in '89. The actual leader of the Black Panther Party for a long time, and the Black Panthers are, nowadays they kind of exist, but they're not really there. I mean, the Huey P. Newton family does not accept the new Black Panther Party as the continuation of the original Black Panthers.
Yeah, I think the Black Panthers are they're extremists. They're pretty racist.
Yeah, I know that for a fact, and that's why it's the weird thing is that the new Black Panther Party. That's why they get a lot more media time than the Black Panther Party ever did, because the system doesn't really fear a party that's divisive like that. It's that they aren't exactly the most accepting to work with white, Hispanic, Asian, all the rest of the protesters. It's not like the Black Panther Party was completely inclusive to anybody that was willing to fight for their cause, and back to marching. Sure, it hasn't really done too much over 50 black men and women have been marching in the street for 50 years, and there's not been, you can't say that we have officially reached full equality in this country. And just with so many different issues, marching the street has not ended in any result of any fruition. So what needs to happen is like what you said, and I've been saying for a long time, we need to show up armed, and we need to show our force of the people and scare them finally. I mean, I'm not just talking about 10,000 in Washington, D.C. or whatever. I'm talking about fucking Cairo level, what we saw in 2013, millions in the streets surrounding Washington, D.C. to absolutely scare them, overwhelm them with the force of the people, or they can't do anything against us. And then once that happens, there might be some change. And I'm talking about stuff like the tactical Yetis. Tactical Yetis are pretty much a militia, kind of to protect protesters, and that's what I'm saying is that we need to have workers' militias to protect the protesters in DC when we do have these big marches. The only thing that's really stopping us at this point is organization, because I think that we definitely do have the numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely the age-old tactic of the divide and conquer. I mean, that's why they just keep the people fighting in the streets, and and also like the whole thing with like the police. It's like, the police, I mean, they're killing people on the streets, and I mean the whole thing is like the media push behind it. Like that's why like the new Black Panthers will get more media coverage than the old Black Panthers, because the new Black Panthers because they are racist, that feeds their agenda with the divide and conquer. They want people to see that so that people don't like, they want to keep that divide and conquer thing going. Same thing with like the police. That's why the media. I mean, people have been getting killed by the police in the streets forever. Forever. That's always been happening. But now they're pushing it because like that keeps their whole divide and conquer thing going. I mean, put it this way: there's only one thing standing between us and them, and that's the police. If the police actually joined up, if the police actually gave a shit and woke up and joined on our side, then it'd be all over, because then they would have that army of police to battle against like the people, like the civilians in the streets. It's the whole divide and conquer bullshit.
Well, definitely, yeah. If it's happened before in successful movements where the police eventually turned on the establishment and joined the people's side at the end. So, that definitely right now at this point, I mean, the police I don't even think they realize it themselves, a lot of them. A lot of the people don't realize that the ultimate block towards revolution, the ultimate wall that's in the way is the pawns in the game that are the police and military of the United States. And that's why it's imperative for us to work on militias, and work, to counter that force, and hopefully eventually, look past the divide and conquer stuff, and then in an ideal scenario, the police turn on their masters, and then we're business. But at this point, the police have become so militarized over the last 20, 30 years. Now they have tanks. I mean, even in small cities, they have tanks. They have all kinds of armored vehicles and stuff like that. They became an extension of the military. And I think it's not that far from our country actually having actual military on the streets patrolling. I think that martial law is not too far away. When things start to get serious, they're going to declare probably in a year or two if things go how many people have been predicting it to go. I'm not pessimist, but I'm a realist, and I see the handwriting all over the walls that things are getting very serious. And there's two ways to look at it. We can look at a sense of gloom and doom, or we can look at it this is a turning point. It's either where we make or break our movement. We can at times like this, when a country is about to go into a major war. Look what happened in Europe, for example, during World War I. Or we see the ultimate result of the Russian Revolution and all that stuff. But there was also other revolutions that happened at that time in Germany that almost became very close to being realized. All these other revolutionary movements that happened in World War I. When a country gets their hands tied behind their backs, a government gets their hands tied behind their backs by having to be in it, or by getting themselves in a major war like that. That's when the people can take opportunity and seize power and just end the bullshit once and for all. And it's happened before, it's all throughout history. I think that in the next couple of years, this is our time to seize power. But it's going to take a lot of organization. It's going to take a lot more unity than exists right now because the movement is fractured right now. There's so many different competing ideas, and nobody really wants to agree with each other. Nobody really wants to work with people that have slightly different ideas but have the ultimate same outcome in their head.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the problem, because like every different group, like, they want to be the ones, you know what I mean? It's like that thing, like, we want to do this, so we're going to go this way, and we, like you just said, like, people don't like each other's ideas or whatever, so they want to like do their own thing. They don't realize that, like you just said, you know, I mean, it's the same shit over and over again. It's like people just don't want to do it because, you know, it's like everybody has their own ideas. And that's another major problem, which is like, I think even more significant, is the fact that the majority of the people just don't give a shit. Like, the people that aren't out there, like, as active, like, whether you're out in the streets or whatever your place is in the movement, like, a lot of the other people, like, everybody's doing their own thing, like, as an activist now. But the rest of the people out there just don't even give a shit. Like, you know, it's not happening in their front yard. They don't care. And they're just going to go about their daily lives as they've, conditioned by society to do. You know, just go to work, pay your taxes, go home and die. You know, and that's another problem. You know, nobody cares unless it's happening to them.
Well, that's definitely one of the major problems, is just complete indifference by so many people in this country of what's really going on. Nobody seems to give a shit. Nobody seems to care, you know, in my age group, unfortunately. It seems like it's very small, you know, and that's the sad thing, because it does need to be the youth that needs to wake up, because it's you know, every time that something successful has happened, it's because the people ages 18 to 35 made it happen. You know, it seems like we have more people ages 50 to 65 that actually are aware and will do something if something like this popped up. But unfortunately, that doesn't cut it ever. It has to be the youth that must wake up. They're the gateway to revolution every time, the vanguard of revolution. And people, it's because people are so busy, and the system made it this way for them not to care, because it's too much of inconvenience on their, you know, their life is already full of work, and you know, when they come home from their 12-hour day of work, they don't feel like, you know, talking about these kind of things. They don't feel like getting involved in politics in any form, any shape of politics at all, or, you know, joining a movement like ours. You know, people will end up working 60 hours a week in this country, and it's set up that way. It's set up to keep people completely occupied.
Yep.
And and just all the other processed stuff that we have on our television. You know, people, it's the sad reality is that 70% of this country would rather keep up with the Kardashians, keep up with our movement, keep up with the Million Massive March.
Yep. No, I mean, that's one thing I do like about the march. Like, in the Million Massive March, is it's a wide variety. It's not like a specific group of people. I mean, not only in DC, but around the country and around the globe. We had kids. I mean, the first Million Massive March, Stu brought his babies there. You know, this kid's from toddlers to, like, you know, elementary school age, all the way up to like senior citizens that are at the march. You know, it's people from all different backgrounds, race, religions, you know, whatever. It's just everybody is actually coming together, and I mean, that's what it takes. But like you said, I mean, then you get the other people that are want to do their own thing, and then the other people that just don't care. So I mean, I'm not sure. I've not claimed to have all answers, but I mean, I know, like, you know, we got to do something. And just like you said, like, the people go to work for, you know, 12 hours a day, sometimes longer or whatever. And like I said, like, with the boiling point, I mean, it's coming because those people that don't care, they're starting to wake up, and they're starting to care, and they're starting to look at the bigger picture, because they're getting sick of that 12-hour day, coming home and being like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, this, you know, and then they see certain things on the news, and then they start, like, you know, doing their own research and waking themselves up. But in my personal opinion, at the same time, like, the people that are awake are the ones that are awake. And if we just continuously just try to, like, wake people up to get to those numbers, it's never going to happen. We're all going to be, like, me and you will be dead and long gone before we reach those numbers that it's going to take to actually do that. So, I mean, in my opinion, the ones that are awake now is what we got. I mean, we might pick a couple people up along the way, like as we take those next steps. But as far as, in my personal opinion, like the numbers we have are the numbers we have, and we'll never get to those numbers in our lifetime. So we need to work with what we got, basically.
Definitely some people. I think a lot of people that that fit into that 12-hour, 12-hour-day life. The 12-hour-day life people a lot of times are very frustrated, but just they don't know what to do at this point. That's why the organization, there needs to be some people to take the initiative and bring these people out to stuff that could actually make a change. And definitely at this point, we're not going to ever get to the point where we're going to, 30, 40. Actually, really, what I think a lot of people think is 100 million people awake in this country, something like that. Like we have a significant amount of population awake. It'll never happen, and we keep.
I don't think you'll never see Egypt happening in the United States. Like that'll not happen. You'll never get 30 million people in the streets together, and even if you do, even with the 30 million people, then once you get those people together, then you're gonna have that whole battle of at the same time, like right now there's a bunch of different organizations in different areas, but now picture all those groups and all at the same time, it's all in one spot together. You're still gonna have that back and forth, blah blah, everybody just that and the other thing, arguing with this, arguing with that, and that though, even if there was that 3 million people, that's when those outside agitators and paid protesters, some people, those people will come out of woodwork trying to disrupt it and trying to destroy it. So, I mean, and that leads into another thing. That's why I say people need to get with their local militias. Start small, start in your own communities. So you end up dealing with 50 million people at the same time. You start local and build outwards. Start with a core group of people and then build your circle outwards. Bring in people that you trust. You know what I mean? And then put it this way: if you have if you just throw a bunch of people in one spot, there's going to be all kinds of all kinds of shit going on. But if you have all these separate groups throughout the states, throughout the country, organizing locally, and then once each state has its own, each state has its own core group, its own essentially what you could even call a militia, your own militia for each state. It's not just a literal militia, but a militia made up of militia members and activists, that are a core group that have personal relationships with the people that they're dealing with. And then once you have those groups in each state, then move all those groups together, then you have less of a chance of the bullshit. But I'm telling you right now, like I said, we can't wait for those. We can't wait for those numbers. If we were all going to be old and gray and dead or in a nursing home by the time that happens, if we're even still alive. So I mean, it needs to get done, and it needs to get done now. There's no waiting. We're already fucked. Everybody's already fucking screwed. They're fucking raiding this country, they're ripping the fucking world, and everybody's just sitting around letting it happen. And it needs to fucking stop. So what the fuck do you do? You gotta, shit, do something. Even if you're not really freaking, I don't know, even if it's just you and your family and a couple of your neighbors, organizing, doing some shit, getting off the grid, whatever. There's so many different things that can be done to, battle this, the quote-unquote system. But at the same time, it needs to be done fast, and it needs to be organized very quickly. I don't plan on being fucking 80 years old marching in the fucking streets, I'll tell you that.
Egypt, like I said, that was an anomaly. There's no way that's ever going to happen in the United States, that percentage of the population. What happened in 2013 over there, and also another thing that should be taken is that we don't need a giant percentage to actually be successful. We just look at some of the statistics in the past. We had, for example, the American Revolution against the British with 3%. That's why these 3% groups and stuff like that, that's what they're referring to, is that only 3% of the population was actively fighting the British. That's the thing. That's another thing, too, is 3% of the population is a hell of a lot smaller than 3% of the population now, which makes that challenge even harder. Well, yeah, that was the thing. Is that 3% of the population then was what? It was how many people were living here in the colonies at that time? Probably, I'm just going to say 15 million or something like that. And you take 3% of that, that's only 450,000 people. Compared to 3% of 300 plus million people, We're talking
Yeah, I mean,
easily 10 million people.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
we don't need
coming up with
giant numbers. What we need is a very good organization. We need everybody taking initiative in our own area. That's what we need, you know.
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
Even like Justin,
you can make
make
a lot of changes locally.
Yeah, and if you do it. Look, another thing too is like with locally, if you go for the militias, like a lot of activists don't like. I mean, including myself, like I'm screaming fuck the police all day, every day. You know, what I mean, until the police want to like come over on this side of that blue line, then fuck them. You know what I mean? Because it's just like the saying goes. You know, if I'll show you a good cop when I see him arresting the bad ones. You know what I mean? So that's another key point of like getting with the militias, because the militias are more likely to be the ones that are more, let's just say, like friendly, so to speak, with the police. So I mean, when the activists get with the militias and they organize, you know, and so, I mean, even some militias or militia members are police. You know, so it's just like I fucking hate cops. But I will tell you that, I mean, morally speaking, not all cops are fucking murderers, you know what I mean? So at the same time, it's just like, I mean, bottom line is, if when the shit really hits the fan, the government's going to turn their back on the cops too. I mean, they don't give a fuck about them cops, you know? So at the same time, it's like, even like, even like I mentioned the Wake in Cincinnati and like Rich Bruce and all them out in Ohio, you know what I mean? Like, if you can like reach out to that one sympathetic cop to the, you know, like, even like we had a solidarity march in Philly Friday, you know, and we were out there, and just we walked by, and there's these two cops walking, like they're walking behind us. I turn around, I'm like, what do you guys think about Laquan McDonald? And then both of them at the same time shook their head, and they're like, some fucked up shit. You know what I mean? Like, those cops, they know what's going on, and they know what's happening, but yeah, at the same time, they weren't those asshole, aggressive, like hostile cops, but at the same time, they're out there, you know, perpetuating the system. And why are they doing it? Because they have jobs. Because they're like, you know, the job, my house, my mortgage, my car, my family, blah, you know, whatever. It's like, the thing I tell people, like, dude, if things go in the way that they're going, you're not going to have to worry about your house, your job, your car, your mortgage, because you ain't going to have none of that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's mathematically going to, it's you know, people have been saying for years, like, as far as, like, the national debt goes, it's fucking impossible to pay that stuff. And in mind, friggin', it shouldn't be paid off anyway because of the friggin' Federal Reserve and all that bullshit. But we don't even get into that. But that shit ain't going to get paid off. The dollar bill's collapsing. The economy's going down the tubes. There's fucking wars going everywhere. The fucking cops are killing people. Like, what's it going to take for people to be like, what the fuck, and actually get up and do something? And that's the thing that pops into my head about the people that don't really care, because those people aren't going to get up and they're not going to do anything until it happens to them. You know, so who has the answers to fucking solve all these problems? Nobody. But like I said, we all have to fucking do something, and that's why, like, for the last, like, 3 years, I've been trying to get, like, all these different groups together, because that's, in my opinion, that's one of the major steps that needs to be taken to, like, do something. And, I mean, shit. I mean, you know,
it's not very long before we talk about the dollar collapse, or talk about, or at least, you know, complete dollar reset. We're talking about World War III on the horizon. I mean, if the United States enters Syria, they're entering a war with Syria and Iran immediately. I mean, people need to stop looking at this petty shit, you know, paying off whatever, because you're not going to pay it off in the first place. And number two, it's not going to be any importance in about 2 or 3 years. And when they start driving people off the camps in this country, which have already been constructed, you know, we need to really start drawing up, a unified movement and solutions quickly.
Hi, Chris. May I interject?
Yeah.
First, I'd like to ask your guest to introduce himself again and let folks know where they can find him if he wants to be found. And I'd also like to say that, we can look back and just see what's coming right here. And most people just don't have the eyes to see. We see in South America where they're disappearing, and back to all through history where it's just put down, and who they come for first is those that speak up. So by being public as we are and putting our voice out there and connecting voices, what do you foresee as the rounding up, and how do you think that's going to take place?
For starters, well, like you said, my name is John Fairhurst. My website is millionmaskmovement.com. I basically designed a website basically to be like a hub of information with links to all, basically I consider trusted sources for information, media, news. There's videos on there, educational videos, there's documentaries on there. It's just basically a website where I just put like a collection of information on there for people that they can use to wake people. Oh, have you seen this video, or this article, whatever, to wake people up. But and as far as the wars and everything, Roundup, I mean, if I had to take a guess, with this whole, first and foremost, everything that's going on in the world today, these wars, all these governments are all on the same team. They're all working towards the same goal. It's a big chess game. They're just moving pieces. All these wars and everything that's happening is just them moving the chess pieces around the board, working towards their end game. And as far as that goes, you got the wars going on. It's World War III. I forget who said it, but it was something along the lines of I can't tell you anything about World War IV because there isn't going to be a World War IV after World War III. Because if the shit really hits the fan between all these countries, Iran has clearly stated they don't give a shit. In the past, from what I've seen, basically if you want to attack us, go ahead or whatever. You got Russia stepping up. You got Putin. Obama has allegedly been trying to battle ISIS, with the new Al Qaeda, which was basically created by the CIA and the United States government and funded by all governments around the world. But they're supposedly battling ISIS for the last 12, 15 years. But Putin goes in and blows half their shit in 2 days. You know what I mean? So it's it's this game that's going back and forth between all these world powers. As far as what happens in this country is people are so dumbed down and so comfortable in their lives, and either that or they're just too stupid to realize what's really going on, and they don't want to see it. They either see it, they don't want to see it, or they don't see it at all. Like you said, they don't have the eyes to see it. So it's just this. It's just this big game of bullshit. And like I said, who has all the answers? I don't know. But I don't in this country. I just recently came across a video of a militia member. He's an older guy. He was I think he was in the Air Force, in his day or whatever. But he even said he saw the attack going on over in our countries. He said those attacks are going to start happening over here. He's he said that shit is going to start happening over here, and he's urging people to train, with their militias, getting ready, stuff like that. But once that starts happening over here, it's just going to be the same thing. Look what happened in France, the bombing, the multiple attacks over there. Once that happened, once they dropped off 10,000 troops and running around France, martial law. That's what's going to happen once. And put it this way: if their end game is martial law and total world control, whatever, that's what they have to do. America is, the United States and very few other countries are the last ones that are basically just living their comfortable, dumbed down lives. But once those attacks start happening over here, then they can implement martial law throughout all those countries. And then once they have martial law in every country, that's basically what they want. And that's the end game: total control over everything. And
so at that point, do you think there will be they'll go to their list, all their NSA list, and kind of make an arrest, a wide, cross-country arrest of a bunch of dissidents and round them up and get those FEMA camps open? And also the secondary question would be, with militia, would you not think that there would be a great deal of infiltration, especially into the leadership of some of these large militia groups, perhaps?
I definitely think there will be. There definitely will be, and I'm pretty sure there probably are those people that are already implanted in certain organizations just for that very purpose. And as far as them running around basically rounding up all the more vocal activists, dissidents, or whatever. It's been happening and will continue to happen. But once that end game does come, where they basically implement the martial law, you're exactly on point with that. They already have a list of people that they are going to grab up right off the bat, just because they know those are the people that are more vocal and are capable of getting the dissidents organized to the point where they can create a resistance against them, and they will definitely, without a doubt, definitely go for those people first.
Now, you stated that all these little quibbles in between people's groups and all this is really what is a great division and used as a tool and a distraction to keep people from uniting. So how would you suggest that people move forward and try to kind of unite the groups in a sense?
I mean, from my personal experience, just with starting a mass march, I mean, I had people like attack me like on social media and this, that, and everything. I speak my mind right off the bat. I speak my mind. 9 times out of 10, I basically just tell them to fuck themselves, and then I just move on. I don't let them they don't take up any space in my mind. They're not occupying any space in my mind. They're not occupying my time. Like, these people want to attack me, like, have fun. They can go do that. They can do whatever they want. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. Anytime anybody stands up to say something, you're always going to have somebody that stands up and says something against that person. They're going to attack the person with the message. Just like, the saying goes, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's bound to happen. But me personally, I do what I do. I don't let that shit bother me. I move on, and once that shit happens, 9 times out of 10 people choose sides or whatever, and I move on with the people that I know that are like-minded like myself, and we organize together. I work with the people that work with other people that work with me. You know what I mean? Work with people that are going to work with you, basically, and forget the rest. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Those people are always going to be up there. You're always going to have these difference of opinions, different arguments or whatever, and just move on and what you're doing. And then, once, at some point in time, if all these different groups have these small little quarrels or whatever, but they all have the same main goal. In my opinion, it's inevitable that at some point in time, those little disputes or whatever are going to get put aside, and then move on from there. But you can't let everything get under your skin. Just do what you do, and don't sweat the bullshit.
So when do you take the resistance in protest to use again against the system, and use their own tactics against them? Use that language and that law, and bring the suit against them. I
mean, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, everybody has their own boiling point. Everybody has their own opinion, or based on their lives and what they do and what they're involved with, what is going to actually make them step up their game. So it's just like, I mean, it's like I said, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, everybody has their own boiling point, and once that happens, I mean, nobody can predict the future. You know what I mean? So it's just like hard to say how it's going. Nobody can say how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So it's kind of just like you got to do what you do. And
we're always moving. I mean, they've kind of came, not out of nowhere, but a lot of times things have changed very rapidly. I mean, it's never easy to predict what's going to happen with the whole movement. It's never easy. Look what happened, for example, in France. I mean, I know that was 200 years ago we're talking about, but it's a perfect example of how everything can change very rapidly. If you're talking going from 1790, revolution seems pretty unlikely, and all of a sudden, many different groups start trying to take power. The king and the queen all of a sudden are on the guillotine. All of a sudden, we have the Jacobins fighting with many different groups inside of there. We have Robespierre fighting with Napoleon to take power. Eventually, Napoleon takes power. All of a sudden, Napoleon creates an empire and starts wars all across Europe. I mean, things change very rapidly with that situation. I think that's why we can take an example to what could happen. It's very hard to predict the future, especially stuff like this. And all this stuff but I think that when we're talking about the potential roundup coming up, in the war 3 possibly happening, with the war against Assad and Iran by the United States and the Zionists. That seems very likely. But I think revolution is also very likely here. As long as we take some lessons and realize that we aren't, like I said, we're not Egypt, and we're also not, a lot of people sometimes try to compare us to revolutions constructed or by the U.S. government. They say, oh, well, this country was able to. Well, they got help from the United States government. It was all planned in order to do their agenda. Like for example, Libya, and I just the whole travesty that happened over there at the very start of the show. I wanted to ask because you told me to share about your documentary that's coming up, and I wanted you to talk about it a little bit on the show because I'm pretty interested, and I just want to hear all the little details about it.
Well, I mean, he actually posted it the other day. I mean, it's just basically a documentary, not about the entire movement, but of just the events that happened in DC this year. I mean, he has Alex Pouch. He has his channel. It's on YouTube's TAP Media, TAP Media. But I mean, it's just it's an hour-long like mini documentary of the events that happened in DC from the day before the march when we were at just a few of us out in front of the White House. I was out there just like hanging out as friends, like talking. Like it was me, Michael Pendleton from Florida, a few other people from like New York, Dan Johnson, the founder of Panda and the Solutions Institute. We were just like talking in there, just like video clips of us talking then, and then basically it leads into the Q&A night where we had the speakers at the party, Justin King, Dave Rodriguez from Chicago, Dan Johnson, and and then we had performance Steve Grant and Vinny PTP. Vinny Straub, PTP, performed that night. And then, it's just basically a rally, trying to get people, like, more organized with different organizations, like I said. And then it goes into, like, then there's, like, pictures and videos of the march that took place the next day. And then, like I said, it's like a mini documentary. I mean, I'm going to be working with a few other people as well to make it, like, a longer one, basically to about the like entire movement from like start to finish from like 3 years ago till basically now, and that's gonna take some while to like put together. But and as you just mentioned too, like the different movements and like how and when it's gonna happen. Like, I mean, it's been happening so slowly, like the marches in the streets and the protests and this and that and the other thing, and everybody's doing petitions and all this other little shit. Like in my opinion, like. When the shit really hits the fan, it's not going to be like a gradual thing. It's just going to happen. Like nobody's going to expect it. There's going to be and I just think there's going to be one thing that's just going to set it off, and it's just going to happen like very fast. It's just going to come, and a lot of people are going to be extremely unprepared for that.
Well, marches in the street. It's not like it's going to slowly transcend from marches in the street to possibly, armed protesters to possibly violent revolution. It's going to happen at one point. I mean, look at Lexington Concord or something like that. Another really old historical example. But 1 second there is no really American Revolution happening. It's just a normal day. Those British found those a few American militia members that were just there, and then all of a sudden they have a confrontation, and then the first shot go off, and then changes history. It's just going to happen pretty rapidly, and it's going to happen 1 second. It's just going to be normal practically, and in another second, something major is going to change the course of history of the United States and in the world from that point on. I think that, and just at that point, it's what we do with the opportunity, and not squandering it. That's our job is to make the best of that opportunity, because many times it's been squandered in the past. I mean, we can look at different examples of the revolution either failing or, for example, the Mexican Revolution. Yes, they technically were successful, but in the long run, it pretty much turned into a counter-revolution, and PRI took power and charged the country for 71 years and pretty much ran it into the position that Mexico is in today. And that started all the way back in 19 teens with Emilio Zapata and all those. And there were true revolutionaries who were pretty much exiled into the southern Mexico. indigenous lands. Another thing, I wanted to ask it, because I actually, the Million Mass March, was that actually in 2013? Was that the first one, or was there ones before that? Because I wasn't too the anonymous movement before that.
I mean, it was. I mean, I know they've had like Guy Fawkes Day over in London for a while now, way before it's like 2013, but and it was basically long story short, I was with my cousin one day, and he wanted to go to like an anonymous-based like demonstration and protest, and I hit up a bunch of people that I knew. There was nothing going on, and as far as I knew, there hadn't been anything for a while or whatever, and there hadn't really been anything like major, like real world, like offline, like like in person, like whatever. And I was at my house that night, and like I said, I'm gonna keep this short as possible. I was at my house that night. I was actually watching, V for Vendetta, the movie, and on the DVR, and at the end of the movie, like it shut off and it went back to the TV, the TV station that the TV was originally on. It was the History Channel, and it was the 50th anniversary of the Million Man March. So basically, that's where it came from. Two and two together, Million Man March, Anonymous, the Mask, Million Mask March. I created the event in April of 2013, and then by November of that year, we had like 475 simultaneous protests on November 5th.
Yeah, I remember the organization all the way up to. I remember pretty early along. I remember like July 2013. That was the first time I saw anything about the Million Mass March, and I started seeing more and more about it. And the problem that always happened for me is that I'm very young. I was the first 2 Million Mass Marches. I was literally in school those days, just very occupied. I couldn't actually physically be there, so I only just was an online supporter. And then this time, which looked like could have been my first time actually going to a protest, because I was graduating and wasn't really doing anything. Well, things changed. I ended up being in Columbia at the time, and very far away from any major city. And was kind of out in the sticks, I couldn't go to the protest that year, So I still stay involved with the Anonymous and other different things locally too as well. I mean, we have like in St. Pete, we actually had a march against corruption, actually in St. Pete, Florida, November 1st. So I see it's pretty good that we are having locally. I see this. It seems to be this heightened awareness. We did have pretty big Ferguson marches back in when originally it started. I mean, we're talking about August 2014, September 2014. Here in St. Pete, Florida, we had a pretty big solidarity marches for Ferguson, and I think that talk about here locally, Tampa Bay, Florida, and stuff like that. I think there's been some progress made, over here, and I think across the country, more people are aware. However, it's just that taking that one last step, not one last step, but those few steps to actually make this a legit movement. What I mean by legit movement, of course, is that we actually, having armed marches, I think is really the next big step. And people need to realize that marching on the street, they never give concessions to the government. Freedoms are not served on a plate; they're earned and fought for. When they do give concessions, which has happened a few times, like for example, a lot of, like Morocco and stuff like that, they had their own protests that happened at the same time as the ones that the media wouldn't stop talking about. But no, there was also Morocco and even Saudi Arabia, and these other countries. And I think they did get Morocco, for example, concessions, but they're very minor. And they're just stuff that sounds good, but in the long scheme of things, nothing has changed at all. So we can't rely on concessions and what the government would give. We have to fight. And I have to say, the ultimate result, the only way we're going to change anything is full-out revolution. When people realize that and people get past that dirty word. So many people are scared by that word. So many people think associated with many different things. But They don't realize it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I'm there with you on that one. You know, like even like you said, like the marching in the streets, anything like that has happened as a result of like marching in the streets and protests. It's basically like, you know, the powers that be and like the government's basically throwing crumbs to the people just to get them to shut up. You know, like you said, I mean, and you know, and basically, as like Malcolm X said, you know, no revolution has ever been. It is, you know, his emphasis is like no revolution has ever been won peacefully. And I mean, would that be great? Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, but is that reality? No, it's not. Like people aren't just gonna be like, okay, you guys win, we get up. You know what I mean? They're not just gonna hand over their power and like everything's gonna be fine, and you know everybody's gonna get a house with a white picket fence to the front. You know, it's not gonna happen. You know, they're not just gonna give up. And as sad as it is to say, I mean, we do everything we can to avoid it, but I mean, in all reality and statistically speaking, and if you look at history, there's only one way it can be done. Do we want that to happen? Do we want people? I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want anybody to get hurt. But you know, what I mean, like it's reality that the only revolutions that have actually been won have been, you know, revolution, like basically violent, you know, fighting. And you know, as Dan Johnson said when we were in DC, it's like when you have like the like in Egypt, basically, like they had the basically what was a kind of a revolution. They had 30 million people in the streets, and you know, it's not a system change. It's just a change of people in power, and that's not what needs to be done. Like the whole system is fucked. You know what I mean? Like it's not, if we push these people out of power, then other people are going to get in power. It's just like a presidency. You know, it's just like an election. You know, these people push these other people out of office, and we put people in office, and then eventually the power and that level of control, or you know, so to speak, is just going to corrupt. And nine times out of 10, it's just going to. So that's just what's going to happen. So it's not the people that need to change. It's the whole system. Like the whole system is completely fucked, and we're the ones bearing the brunt of all that shit. And they know that's the way the system was designed. That's what it was meant to do. And that's why it's a system that needs to be changed and, you know, basically burnt to the ground and rebuilt. Like, if we even rebuilt it, you know, at all, to tell you the truth. You know, it's like I said, it's not people in power, it's the system, and that's what needs to change. And it's not gonna happen just by like people talking about it.
Well, you know, it's like I said is that what needs to happen is that it's what a lot of people think would work is like, okay, your computer's acting weird, you know, whatever. How about we just get that antivirus software and we just try to clear out some cookies and stuff like that and some viruses on the computer and maybe that. We need to fucking take out the hard drive and fucking reboot the computer at this point. I mean, if we're talking about our country, the hard drive is the faulty government. We need to put in a new hard drive. And, you know, if we even rebuild it at all, like you said, you know, that's built around us. You know, the government, our economic system, or a lot of things, our media. Just it's all off the board, and it's disease that there's many different reasons that the disease exists. One reason is also, let's face it, that we are under control by people that are not even American and entities that are not even American. One thing is that the Rothschilds. Another thing is political Zionism, media Zionism. It's all across the board. It's a filthy virus it's a cancer that a lot of the world is inflicted by, and this country is inflicted by. And I see the Anonymous has taken strong stances against political Zionism, and especially in 2013. I don't know if that's still the case. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're a strong anti-Zionist, right?
Right. Hey, I hate to cut you guys off, but I got to take off. I got to go pick some supplies we got to pick up a bunch of donations tonight for helping in Philly. I hate to cut you off early, but I got to meet somebody in probably 15 minutes. Take that long to get there.
It was you have to just stay all the way to about it's already 10:40 Eastern time. So you were here for about an hour, and thanks for showing up. having you and hearing your point of view on all these topics and hearing about what you're into with the documentary and all this, and just talking about what needs to be done in general. So thanks for having, thanks for being on my show, and may at some later point you call in on another show, or may have another interview, a follow up at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I had to cut you off early, but I definitely need to get out there and take care of this so that we got to get ready for the 6th that's coming up.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Thanks a lot.
That was a great caller, Chris. Great guess. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that about the end of the 18th century, the population of colonists was about 2.5 million, with the number was about 600,000 Native Americans, and of course that would just be those in that enclosed in that range, and then that started the Western expansion and stuff. So I think those numbers would probably skewed as far as the dispersal among European descendants to the native.
Yeah, I was actually pretty far off on that actually. So I said 15 million or something like that. So that 3% that I was talking about, we were talking about 2.5 million. It's only 75,000 people. That means that was the 3% is able to take the colonies from the British. I think so. That little statistic there. Yeah, and Vince said that, it's pretty cool having, that is right there where we just had the organizer of the Million Mass March, because so many people on UCY and just in our little circle of radio, took a participation, even in the Million Mass March, or followed it. I'll admit right here that I haven't gotten a good chance to go for the last 3 times it's happened. And maybe next year will finally be the year I get to participate physically and not just online. And this time I was down about 1,000 miles south of the United States, down in Colombia. And I wasn't in Barranquilla or Bogota or any of those big cities. I was out in country by the Venezuelan border, actually. Now I'm back, and I actually was back last week, and now this is the second week back. I actually was able to still air down there, somewhat. I know there were some problems, but anyways, I want to talk about. I think that my view of all the stuff that's going on, I don't really see it as that all the governments at this point. I think there's still a lot of fighting to happen before all the agenda. I think that's why these wars are happening in Syria and stuff like that. Is that Syria is one of the last holdouts to the New World Order. That's why this is such a vicious war and such a important war. We're watching. Assad is one of the last holdouts. There's only 3 holdouts to the Zionist agenda in the Middle East. There's just a few holdouts all around the world to the New World Order agenda. And another thing that happened the last week or so, I think it was like last Saturday, I think, or I don't know when they had the elections on there in Argentina. I think it's almost a tragedy, really. Argentina is going to return to the similar style government that was in 2001 when their banks, they froze the banks. There was a run on the banks. They're crashing. The people were in abstract poverty, and now they decided that they want to return to that, which you can see it's heavily supported, away from the Kirchner government, which is strongly anti-Zionist. It was right after, suspiciously enough, that maybe it was a rigged election. But the fact is that Kirchner this year had announced that she would deny citizenship of anybody that had Israeli citizenship. It was over. If you wanted to do that, you announced your loyalty, and it was to Argentina. And also at the same time, they had taken a very strong stance. I think the 90s and all kinds of stuff, along with Bolivia and a few other South America during 2014, 2015, they took a very strong stance against Zionism. Many of the countries, only a few countries have decided to continue strong diplomatic relations. Unfortunately, my country, Colombia, our government is pretty much a colony of the United States, and that's why they continue to have great relations with with Israel, unfortunately. Also, I wanted to say that people, thanks for bearing with me on the show. Yeah, I know that there's been, I don't know what's been the problem with the, I don't know what's been, apparently been a clarity problem with the show. In my opinion, probably might be something to do with the internet. Could be a lot of things. I don't think people that don't do radio don't realize how many things can affect the all output of the show. Anyways.
Yeah, hey Chris, I was actually I was getting some coaching from Hal Anthony, who broadcasts Behind the Woodshed on UCY right here, a simulcast from World Truth, Real Liberty Media, and so he was critiquing our audio, and there seems to be probably some bandwidth problem, and with all the relay and stuff through Skype, which is sometimes sketchy. So, but it looks like mainly it's on your end there. I think the main breaking up part was. Then your caller, he did have, he was coming in pretty clear. The first guy that called in to listen, his was pretty good. Didn't have any problem from him. And then your guest, he was real good for a while. And then we got a little breaking up from him, but we could consider.
Well, I can see why.
Pardon?
It's an internet problem on my end.
Yeah, that's the main. I think you've got maybe some low bandwidth, and maybe you've got some programs running on, in the background that's slowing your ability to transmit more clear, with perhaps the CPU usage being high. So if you had a tech friend, you might be able to get them to look at what you're operating with right there and be able to correct that. May improve your broadcasting.
Yeah. Well, actually, right now at the second, I have like 8 other programs open on the tablet. So let's see. If now I'm just gonna Skype only thing open at the second. We'll see what that does to clarity. Yeah, I know. It's probably also from the fact that was a combination that my internet's not the strongest. I don't know what exactly. I don't know what exactly caused that, where I get only 1 or 2 bars. I'm just 1 or 2 rooms away. Might be just, it is a very old router. But everybody enjoyed having that caller we did have on today. John, it's a pleasure hearing him talk, and he's very passionate about the cause. And the unity that he's trying to bring is very honorable. To the movement. He's been trying to different factions in the movement have these little quarrels with each other, and just ultimately a lot of times they were bullshit. You have the Oath Keepers. You have these different factions trying to be like the Black Panthers. You have these different. You have so many different, you have people in one foot and then one movement, one foot in the other movement. You have people, have opportunities like what happened in Ferguson, Baltimore, which I didn't get to talk about. But of course, there was the opportunists like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. Of course, what's funny is that when Jesse Jackson showed up to Ferguson, they told him to get out of there. Because when people, it's like the death knell of any movement when you see Jesse Jackson show up. And then try to take advantage, because he's either going to crash your movement or he's going to make a lot of money and leave. He'll write a book about, the violence he endured in this movement or whatever, when all he did was stay at the 5-star Marriott, enjoyed many rounds of wine and caviar, and then left, and there, and then do 1 speech or 2 speeches to some of the protesters or whatever, and then leave. It is the destiny. If you see him or Al Sharpton in your movement, just do whatever it takes to get rid of him. And Al Sharpton will then use whatever little experience that he had at the movement, go to the MSNBC show, and then start talking for 30 minutes about nothing, and pretend to be, some great, then he'll compare himself to all these other real civil rights activists, but in reality, he's very far from being the moment we call him a civil rights activist, we're in danger. We got about 10 minutes left of the show. So actually, John Anthony Fairhurst was here most of the show. I said that was about an hour and 20 minutes we had him on. We had about 20 minutes before that we were just I just kind of gave the background and talked about a few various topics,
I'd like to
now we're just going to.
I'd like to remind everybody that the phone lines are open at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. Call in and I'll add you up. You got something to say? We'd love to hear from you.
Well, I'm just gonna close out this show with a little bit of analysis of right now. I'm just gonna give an update because every now and then one of the main things I do focus on is Syria. In Syria, we have had Aleppo is about to be regained by the Assad forces and Hezbollah. With another major significant events are happening. Kobani is currently disputed, which is northern Syria, by Turkey. And this is one of the big things that might happen soon, is that Turkey and the United States might be joining forces in northern Syria to make a safe zone for terrorists from the Free Syrian Army, from ISIS, and many different groups. And it would be actually put in Kurdistan. And Turkey has a very strong hatred towards Kurdistan, and they've been trying to repress them. That Kurdistan is an aspiring country in southern Turkey, northern Syria, northern Iraq, western Iran, and that what recently happened was that Russian plane being shot down. That was actually a Turkmen Brigade, which is an ultra-nationalist Turkish group that is against the Kurdish. And Assad is actually looks like he would recognize Western Kurdistan, the part that is in northern Syria, once the war is over. And that's why the Kurdish fighters have taken the side of the Assad government. The Assad government also has the Christian militias. They have Palestinians strongly against Zionism, and then you have the rebels. Of course, are all just a loose conglomeration of terrorists. Free Syrian Army. You have Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda. You have the Islamic Front. You have all these different brigades, and you have ISIS, which is the biggest opposition group. That's not what's being talked about in the media. That when you look at it that way, ISIS is the biggest opposition group. Then the Free Syrian Army, and they work very closely together, including one time a sale of a journalist from the Free Syrian Army to ISIS, and that they have a ceasefire, and that the Kurdish are not on the side of the United States government. The Kurdish are on the side, and they have been helped almost none by the dividing American coalition, and they work with the Assad government. The American coalition, actually when Kobani was under siege by ISIS, and probably one of the biggest battles of the entire Syrian civil war. When people look back, people might look at it as one of the first battles of War III. Battle of Kobani went on for months. The United States had been very little. In fact, had their own men go after, had their own men attack the Kobani, having the Free Syrian Army and ISIS and many different groups were attacking Kobani at the time. So the United States actually was assisting the siege of Kobani. And now we're looking also Damascus. The terrorists have been cleared. At one point, they were threatening to enter Damascus, but now they are far away. Pomerania, the ancient city, was cleared about a month ago or so, and there's been many other cities that have been taken by the Syrian government recently. And ISIS is being cut in half pretty much during offensive westward from Iraq. In Iraq also, they've been significantly damaged by the Iraqi military, which the Iraqi military have pretty much admitted that the United States government is responsible for the rise of the terror group in their country. Syria, at this point, it looks like that ISIS is actually towards total destruction. That's why I think the United States will come in, save their terrorist assets, and that's why they are pushing towards invasion right now, is that the Russians have almost, and the Iranians, let's not forget about them, have almost completely obliterated ISIS in Syria. And that's pretty much, that's also Raqqa is the capital of ISIS, of the caliphate is in Syria. So taking out ISIS in Syria is the most important country to the true destruction of ISIS. It truly demonstrates right there by the fact that the United States wants to support their main enemies in Syria, that they're supporting, they want to support the war against their main enemies in Syria, that they're so uncommitted to the destruction of ISIS in their main country that they are actually pro-ISIS, the United States government. And now ISIS is in Libya. They have started in Egypt, or in North Africa, and as we see, with the help of the United States government, they became one of the biggest. They're the new Al Qaeda, as John Anson Fairhurst said. But it's even further than that, because Al Qaeda. I don't think they ever did anything this big by governments like to this size that were against the United States and Zionism is exactly what ISIS is doing right now in Syria. And ISIS is being treated in Israeli hospitals and Turkish hospitals. In fact, I think the son, its daughter Erdogan runs one of the hospitals where ISIS Takfiris are treated. Anyways, I don't think we're going to have any callers. Probably going to wrap up the show in about a minute or two, as it is at 10:56 Eastern Time, 7:56 over there on the West Coast, Pacific Time. And I gave our little update of Syria there. It's definitely the whole situation right now is intensified in the last few weeks or so, and really just the last few months. And what we are looking at right now is that potentially the United States escalation around Kobani, and what we could see soon, the creation of a safe zone. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in to tonight's show with John Anthony Fairhurst, and as your host, Chris J, we have just about a minute or two before we reach the bumper. Next week, tune in. I actually have two topics that are, I have a really good idea for a show coming up in around, I'm thinking 2 weeks. I'm going to take 2 weeks to organize the show. It's going to have sort of a guest, but it's not really going to be, it's going to be really the first of its kind. My idea comes into fruition here. And next week we're going to have, I think I have a pretty good idea. I was talking about Argentina there, and I was just going to allude to the topic of what I'm going to be talking about. I haven't talked about that region in a while, and I do want to talk about it. I'm just going to appear say the topic is that what we're going to be talking about in South America, and talk about the revolution down there. Anyway, we are here in the last minute of the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in to Voice of Rebellion Radio. By the way, if you haven't caught that 100th episode that I did a few weeks ago, great story sort of told about Joseph Broz Tito and the Mind Movement, please.
And no return, and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little, when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad, the comet that killed the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds him. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can